Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager, and this is the Fireside Chat every week of the year. It's amazing because I travel a lot, but we're very dedicated to this. Thanks for being with me. I'm in my home. That's Otto, needless to say. He can introduce me by now because he's so well known. And let's see, the usual, my fire, my dog, my study, and it's completely unscripted. It's just a chance to offer some thoughts spontaneously and take your questions. So why am I sitting with this? Two big media things took place in this past week. One in Newsweek, which is, well, not here or there. I'll talk about it in a moment. And the other is the New York Times. I'll start with the New York Times. The New York Times on Sunday, on the biggest edition it publishes, has a front page, huge front page article. Starts on the front page on PragerU. And there it is, front page, and there's the article with the somewhat condescending headline. It's a Fox News for teenagers in short videos. That was the way the New York Times could put us down in the headline. Because there's no reference to Fox News once in the entire article or anything analogous. But that's what they decided. It's very different, by the way, from the internet headline, which was what? Do you remember what the internet headline is? It doesn't. Anyway, it's just different. Be that as it may, look at how big the article is. I mean, it takes an entire giant page of the New York Times with pictures of PragerU folks. And, what am I going to say? To be perfectly honest with you, it was certainly helpful to PragerU. This is the fourth gigantic, really, as you see, gigantic article on PragerU on a left-wing or left-of-center source. BuzzFeed, Mother Jones, front page LA Times and front page New York Times. And they try, they're not happy with how influential we have become in the lives of so many people. But there's nothing they could say because we're very sophisticated. It's a very sophisticated operation. It's on a very high intellectual and moral level. That's my intent. It's the intent of all of the 50 people who work there. It's the intent of the board of directors. These are wonderful people. Even if you look, you can't find anything quote unquote hateful or anything like that. So they write what they write. My favorite line, I think my favorite line, I think I've more or less memorized it, was PragerU, something to this effect. PragerU circumvents or tries to circumvent brick and mortar universities and parents with its message, which is such an odd state. What does it mean, circumvent? What should we do? Ask parents for permission to put out a video? Ask the University of Michigan, can we put out a video? It's such a bizarre line, but there are a few bizarre lines like that where the attempt is to try to show something in a darker light than reality would dictate. But I don't believe that the writer set out. I met her, and I said to my colleagues at PragerU, I don't think she set out to write a hit piece on us. I want to be very fair. I think the New York Times would have liked to, but the reporter, I don't think, wanted to. The New York Times did report on me about 2 years before, and they did. It was a sort of hit piece. It had nothing to do with PragerU. It just had to do with me and the so-called controversy of my conducting the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra at the Disney Concert Hall. But I won't get into that now. It's actually worthy of mentioning another time, but not important. Anyway, that's what it is. You could read the article, obviously. Go to the New York Times and just read. I'm sure we put up a link to it, right, at PragerU. I'm sure we have. And I'll tell you what's interesting. there's something much more interesting to me than the article. What's interesting about the article is that the New York Times thought that we deserve front page reporting at such great length and couldn't find anything negative to say. I mean, that's what's interesting. But the most interesting is to read the comments on the internet, on the New York Times page, where there are comments on articles. I read all 800 plus. It took me about 5 hours to go through all of them. And I did. And on my radio show, I have been reading a lot of them, not all of them. It would take me a week. But I've been reading selected ones. The most common comment is, well, this is right-wing hate. Not one in 800, now not all 800 said that, but not one in the 800 gave one example of right-wing hate or any hate. They would just say it because they're programmed to believe that if you're not on the left, we'll just call you a hater. They're programmed. I mean, it's depressing. That was depressing, not the article. The depressing is the comments of New York Times readers about the article. I mean, these are people, I would assume 98% of whom went to college, which is probably why they don't think clearly. And I don't mean that as a cute line. I really do. I don't believe college teaches you to think clearly. It teaches you to memorize responses to things you differ with. Oh, 6 herbs: sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, bigoted, and of course hater, and now transphobic. There's a new phobia every couple of years. That's you ought to take a look at that. Maybe I'll write an article on the comments. I think I will, because that's truly instructive. The stuff that people write, but a minority, but a fair number wrote, well, why don't you give us an example? They would write as a comment on the comment, gee, an honest question, not even people who know us, but, I don't know PragerU, everybody keeps writing this, but I don't hear one example of a lie. Oh, kinds of lies, propaganda. Give us an example. We don't lie. Do I say that every single thing is incontrovertible? I mean, it's very, very few things other than, 2 + 2 = 4 is incontrovertible. But God knows we never lie. I mean, it's actually wrong to lie, and I think people have to answer to God if they lie. That's one of the reasons we're effective. I mean, when you think of the people, this is what isn't noted. Think of the people who have made PragerU videos. If I would write a response to some of these, I'd say, do you really believe Bret Stephens of the New York Times? Anti-Trump Bret Stephens? He lied for PragerU? George Will, anti-Trump, Pulitzer Prize winner. They're both Pulitzer Prize winners. He's made a number of videos for us. Did he lie? Would either of these guys make a video for a lying propaganda website? Would 4 prime ministers? We have 4 prime ministers who've made videos, or 3 prime ministers and 4 Pulitzer Prize winners. That's actually the correct number. I mean, these people have dignity. Jordan Peterson, one of the most honorable human beings I've ever had the honor of meeting. He's done videos for us, or a video for us. I don't know how many. Well, would he associate, or all of these wonderful people? Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro. I mean, there are so many extraordinary people. I'm afraid to name any because I don't want to insult the ones I don't name. But we have 400 videos. I can't name everybody. That's what they would have to answer. The last Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, made a video for us. You think he'd associate with a propaganda mill or a lying site? Who else was the Prime Minister of Spain? The Prime Minister, I think, was it of Norway or I don't remember. or Denmark. They don't know how to argue on the left. They only know how to smear. Which brings me to the other perfect segue to the other item. Look at this headline, from Newsweek. Conservative radio host ridicules Anne Frank. I don't get my wisdom from teenagers. Oh, I need one of those pagers, actually. That's me. This, I have to say, is the most despicable headline I have seen in mainstream media as pure, undiluted lie. It's in fact a libel, but I'm not suing them. I could, but I'm not. My column is about them this week. You can read it. I have a column every week. I hope you would all read it. It's easy to find. It's based on townhall.com, but it's all over the internet, and it's at dennisprager.com. And it is about this. You have to understand, charging me with ridiculing Anne Frank is so low, is so vile. I've devoted so much of my life to the welfare of the Jewish people. I was a board member on the board of directors of the Holocaust, U.S. Holocaust Museum. It's actually bizarre. It's so bad. It's in the realm of the bizarre. So how did this guy who should be fired, in my opinion, but I'm not calling for him to be fired. Newsweek should just apologize on his behalf. He won't. Benjamin Furnow, or Fearnow, F-E-A-R-N-O-W, who is not an impressive human being. So how did he come up with the idea that I ridiculed Anne Frank? So it was on this, watching a fireside chat. I was asked, in fact, I'm going to give it to you exactly as it was said. You could, of course, watch it. So I got a question from Sam in Meridian, Idaho. On your most recent fireside chat, you said that people are not basically good. This is the question. We've heard you discuss this topic before. Anne Frank is quoted as saying, despite everything, I believe that people are really good at heart. How do you respond to her quote? So this is a word-for-word transcription. I'm just going to add bracketed words to make it clear. But this is what I said. She wrote that in her diary, the most famous Holocaust document. She was a teenage girl, a Dutch Jewish girl, who hid with her family until they were betrayed by someone to the Nazis, who then shipped them to death camps. And she died, murdered by the Nazis in the death camps. She was about 16 years old, maybe 15. Her diary is very famous. It gives a face to the horror of the Holocaust. So far, does it sound like I'm ridiculing Anne Frank, or am I saying how tragic and great she is? I continued. I know she wrote that, and my answer is it doesn't matter that she wrote it. I don't get my wisdom from teenagers. That she was a wonderful young woman and wrote an unbelievably powerful document that will last forever is beside the point. I don't expect 16-year-olds, unless they grew up in a religious Jewish or Christian home, where it is taught as a basic religious doctrine that people are not born basically good. She was a secular Jew. Most kids believe that people are basically good, but it isn't true. So it has never been an issue for me. Well, you disagree with Anne Frank, so what? And by the way, to be very serious for a moment, I would be very curious. I've thought about this a lot. If I were to be able to visit Anne Frank while in a concentration camp, would she still have believed that? We don't know. I ridiculed Anne Frank. You have no idea how many left-wing sites now have Prager ridicules Anne Frank. Because truth is not a left-wing value. It's a liberal value, it's a conservative value, but it's not a left-wing value. This is one of the most repeated phrases of my life. Truth is not a left-wing value. That's why all these people writing in the New York Times could say we lie and we're this and we're that. They make it up. They make it all up. And this is he made it up. I didn't ridicule it. I just read to you. You could watch it. I can't change it. It's out there in the Fireside chat when I spoke about this. To say that you don't get wisdom from teenagers is not to ridicule teenagers. Nobody got wisdom from me when I was 16. I didn't expect them to. In fact, I would have thought the world was upside down. If adults came to me for wisdom and I didn't go to them for wisdom, I would have been a little horrified that things are not balanced in life. There isn't any human being I've ever met who doesn't believe they have more wisdom than they did when they were a teenager. Including, I suspect, this guy, although he may not have more wisdom than when he was a teenager. By the way, I do believe that there are a lot on the left who don't have any more wisdom than when they were a teenager. That's why they're so offended. Because they don't have more wisdom than when they were a teenager. That's why they want to give the vote to 16-year-olds. Why in American history was it 21, not 18, not 16? Because Americans correctly believed that you need a certain cutoff age, obviously, and it should be later, not sooner, because few people have wisdom under 21, let alone under 18. But the Democratic Party in many states wants to give the vote to 16-year-olds, and they're right from their perspective, because they don't have more wisdom than 16-year-olds. I truly believe that. They don't. They feel, they don't think. Anyway, where you have to get wisdom. Now, you can get wisdom from life if you are predisposed to wanting to be wise, but not everybody is. People will go through life and not grow up. I remember when I ran an institute for an educational institute for college-age kids for a number of years. It's when I first came out to California in my late 20s and early 30s. And I would give them lectures and I would tell them, listen, at your age, you think that at a certain age, you automatically become an adult. It's not true. You become an adult when you decide to be an adult. There are many 50-year-olds who are children. And more than ever, by the way, more than ever. So this is a vile thing. You should tell Newsweek they should withdraw it or apologize. We got to fight. Otherwise, they get away with this stuff. Okie dokie. Time for your questions. All right. And here we go. Our first video, or our video question for today.
Hi, Mr. Prager. My name is Sharisa Griffiths. I'm a member of the Prager Force here in Lorain, Ohio. And I just wanted to know, how would you go about addressing the homelessness crisis that's currently going on when our economy is at an all-time unemployment low? Because there's something clearly missing when you have a lot of people homeless and an economy where unemployment is very low.
God, the question is so good. Yes, that's a very fair question. Why, if almost anyone who wants can get a job, are so many people living on the street? Especially here in California, where I live. And I'm not going to get into specific policies right now. It's a very long and complex question. However, let's put it this way. The major reason there are so many more homeless is not because of a lack of homes. Okay, that's what the left will tell you, because they always blame society for what, especially American society, when American society may not in fact be to blame here. Why didn't they have more homeless in the past when people were much poorer? Why? When I was a kid, it was unknown, basically, because they didn't let you live on the street. It was as simple as that. You were not allowed. I don't know why it is allowed today, because we have decided to have compassion. I think it's false compassion, but compassion over wisdom is a perfect example of where wisdom matters. But why weren't there in the past? Were more homes? It's not because there were more homes. Most of these people, I don't know most. I don't know if we know a lot that as to be absolute truth on these matters. Many have mental problems. I know this as a truth. Many have addiction problems. That's a separate problem, but society does not have to allow for people to live in the street. That is something that society, that a higher civilization doesn't allow for their sake and for others. I think the collapse of the family in many instances is a factor. The collapse of the family is due to a values issue that has taken place in American life. Family is not nearly as valued as it was. And I think it's a collapse of religion, because churches and synagogues so often played roles in these people's lives to help them out. But vast numbers of people do not religiously affiliate. There are so many issues involved. And as I said, mental illness. My wife and I, one night, on a very cold night in Los Angeles, a number of years ago, for whatever reason, we were out late at night, maybe coming from a dinner. I don't remember why. But there was a homeless man. He was a white, middle-aged guy. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you, I don't know how much, $5, which is more than he usually gets, maybe $10, I don't know. I said, if you let me ask you questions, in effect, interview you, not on a microphone, just human to human. I said, fine. He was thrilled. And it basically turned out, I said, do you have really no place to live? He said, no, my sister will take me in any time. I want to live here in the street. And to us, it sounds, who would want to live in the street? But a lot of them do. I don't know why. This man, by the way, was an addict. And maybe it was just easier for him. I don't know the answer. I don't know what makes these people tick. I do know that society has a right to say you cannot live in the street. That I do know. Ben, 19, Hollywood, Maryland. How many states have a Hollywood? I really do wonder. I know Hollywood, Florida, Hollywood, California, now Hollywood, Maryland. Mr. Prager, do you keep a diary, and what are your thoughts on them? I did keep a diary in high school, and that's where I wrote when I wasn't writing about the girls I was interested in. I was writing about what I wanted to do with my life and my thoughts about life. I always cared about the big questions. I was very atypical as a kid, but I was very fun-loving. I mean, I had a lot of friends and so on, but my mind was elsewhere. And anyway, I wrote there, I know what I want to do with my life. I still have that diary. I want to influence people to the good. And that's all I've done. That's all I've wanted to do. And if it worked out, it worked out. And if it didn't work out, I tried. And I wish I had kept up a diary the rest of my life. And I know why I didn't. I'm lazy. Now, I know that this might sound odd because I do get a lot done. I admit that. That's obvious. But I have to fight my inner desire to just play. For example, I love classical music. I could watch concerts on the internet, because it's a great way, by the way, to get into classical music is to watch these concerts. That may hold your interest more than just listening in the beginning. But I still love watching. And I could just watch this stuff. I have a great stereo system. I could do my hobbies. I have so many hobbies. I could truly sleep late, go to bed late. completely irresponsible life with great ease. But diary, I just stopped because it's effortful. Unlike Alan Estrin, my co-founder of PragerU, who is the most disciplined human being I know, he writes a page every single day. He has the page the day we met. It's really fascinating. Met Dennis Prager, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's quite, he under every circumstance, he could jet lag, nothing. It doesn't matter. He will keep a diary. You should do that. You will thank yourself later. And by the way, it doesn't have to be long. Write 5 lines. If I could do it all over, I don't have a lot of regrets. Everybody has some regrets. I don't know how you could live a life and have no regrets. But that would be one of them. Is that well? All good with Mr. Rowe? Okay. Eric, 15 Budapest. By the way, I'm speaking in Budapest. I'll put it up at DennisPrager.com as soon as it's finalized where it'll be. Eric, 15 years old, Budapest, Hungary. Good day, Mr. Prager. How would you challenge the leftist argument that the socialism that Bernie Sanders wants is not the same type of socialism that is used in Venezuela or the USSR? Thank you, I am a big fan. Okay. None of them start out with wanting Venezuela or the USSR. They just want bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger government, which means that government controls more and more and more. So you're less free and less free and less free. That's the way it is. You know, we have a video, what about Scandinavia? We have a video by a Dane, a major Danish thinker who says this is nonsense that we're a socialist state. Denmark is a capitalist country. You know that in Sweden, the Swedish taxes on corporations were way lower than America's taxes until Donald Trump lowered them. So, the Scandinavian example is not a good one. I don't trust people with power. You shouldn't either. That's why the question, are people basically good? Aside from God, the existence of God, the second most important question in determining how you look at life is, do you believe people are basically good? And the amount that comes out that is wrong from that belief is astonishing. You must understand that human nature is flawed. I never said we're basically evil. If we were just evil, there would be no good in the world. Of course there's good. But human nature must be disciplined, must be fought. Okay? Most fantasies, people do not fantasize visiting the sick in a hospital, right? Let's be honest. So, why would you trust flawed creatures with all that power? That's why Lord Acton, the British thinker and diplomat, Lord Acton said the famous quote, "Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely." That's just the way it works. That's why democracy, with all its flaws, is the best form of government. Well, really a republic is, but we'll leave it at democracy. And Churchill said democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others, which is true. That's why you don't want to give the founders of the United States, who were the ultimate truly brilliant. Ooh. You know, whenever I talk about the founders, it's an astonishing thing. He's thinking right now of Madison and Jefferson, Adams. Is that right, Otto? Yeah. That's his way of affirming what we're just saying. They were geniuses. These were gifted human beings. And they understood you have to put as many checks on power as possible. That's why Congress checks the president checks the Congress, the court checks the president and Congress. There's always checks. That's why there's an electoral college in America. They didn't even trust the majority. So they wanted to give small states power in deciding who's president so that the biggest don't bully the littlest. So Bernie said, they all mean well. Oh, we'll take over the entire medical system in America and it'll only be better. On what? Why would? Oh, I don't believe that. It's not even possible. You have to fix what is broken, but you don't smash it. They smash what isn't perfect. That's what the left's view on and everything flawed is. Just get rid of it. The Boy Scouts, beautiful art, well, just a religion. Oh, it's got flaws. Oh, really? What are you going to substitute for Christianity and Judaism in the West? What are you going to substitute? Social justice? That's what they've done. It's exactly right. How's our time?
31.
Okay, got that internal clock. By the way, I got a Hungary story, and then we'll go, since you're from Hungary, Eric. So my first time in Hungary, because my field of study was communist countries. So I went to the Soviet Union and East Europe a lot. And Hungary was at the time under communist rule, János Kádár, I'm sure it's a name you'll know. And my first time in Hungary, this is what happened. I took a hydrofoil fast boat on the Danube from Vienna to Budapest. And when I got on the boat, I needed to go to the bathroom. And I figured, I'll just use the bathroom on the boat. But for whatever reason, I guess because it's a quick trip, they didn't have one. Or at least that's what I recall. Otherwise, I would have used it. So I got to Budapest in some pain, needing to relieve myself. But I had to go through communist customs. They open up all your luggage, see if you're bringing any Western magazines in, and they would take it away, check everything. So I'm in real pain when I finally got through communist customs in Budapest. I walk out onto the street, and I go, thank God. Oh, I see on an island in a big highway on a little land between the two directions of cars, WC. I think, thank you, God, at least that's international. It stands obviously for men's room, ladies' room. WC is a water closet. So anyway, I go there and I see two doors. And over one door it says Nok. And over the other door it says Furfiak. And I look for, like an outline of a man, an outline of a woman, nothing. An umbrella and a skirt, nothing. The international symbol of male, female, nothing. Just Nok and Furfiak. I don't know if I'm a Nok or a Furfiak. And I know a lot of languages, but Hungarian, it's related to Finnish, but only a long time ago. There's nothing related to Hungarian. So what do? I stand in the middle of the street, and as people walk by, I go, excuse me, Nok? Furfiak? So this 6'4" American kid is asking Hungarians if he's a man or a woman. So some of them actually got scared. They thought I was a lunatic. Meantime, I'm in terrible pain, and Hungarians think I'm a lunatic. This was not a good moment for me. So finally, I go, I'm not going to get an answer. Nobody's going to tell me. What would you do if somebody said, hello, am I a man or a woman? Well, maybe today would be particularly confusing. So I just figured, look, I got a 50-50 chance. Furfiak sounds like female. I'll walk into Nok. And I was wrong, and some women start yelling at me. And that's the first two words I learned in Hungarian, and I clearly have not forgotten them. So whenever I meet a Hungarian, I tell them this story. I'm sure you get a kick out of it, Eric. So köszönöm szépen, which I also know. Thank you very much. To all of you, thank you, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to keep these fireside chats free, please do by donating to PragerU.